At this point, what looks like the team's biggest strength?
Speed. We're pretty fast, pretty athletic, not overly big, but we move pretty well.
What part of your game do you feel like you most improved during the off season?
My game specifically,
Yeah.
I feel like I've put on a lot of weight, so I'll be a lot better runner this year.
I would say, I mean, not necessarily gained, but I've gotten heavier. I've gained like 5 pounds, hopefully of muscle, I'm pretty sure, from lifting weights over the summer, and I'm 180 now, 180 pounds.
You had the game of a lifetime in the state championship. I mean, 3 interceptions, forced a fumble, passing touchdown, rushing touchdown. So, how do you follow that up? Where do you go from here?
I would say try to not think about it as much because if you expect to play the best you possibly can every single game, not that you don't want to try your hardest, but I wouldn't over expect things and then just get upset if I couldn't complete that.
How different does this season feel with you guys defending the state championship instead of chasing it?
I would say we're a different team, so the goal is still the same, and it's not really. I would say obviously it always is a championship, but it's to be the best when in the end when it matters the most. And so I would say the goal is the same, and we're not necessarily thinking about defending it or trying to go back to back. Just play the best we can in the end.
I feel like we got to remember where we came from. We haven't always been the top dog, and I think we lost a lot of dudes, and we need to remember that we're not the same team, and we need to get better and try and go for another, I guess.
How have you tried to prepare your players for being the defending state champs and all that comes with it?
I think the biggest thing is we just talk about it, and you talk about expectations, which I just talked about, and the ability for our kids to deal with that, having a target. Everybody's going to play their best against you, that sort of thing. But I think most of it is mental. And so the biggest thing we do is just talk about it and talk about controlling what we can control and, trying to be the best we can be at the end of the year. And that doesn't really change whether you were the state champion last year or not. You still strive to be your best in the end.
He just told us briefly kind of what I just said is, but don't overthink it. Just do the best you can and just play your hardest every game.
He's told us many times that we're not the same team. I just said we're missing a bunch of dudes, and we have different captains this year. He wants us to, I don't know. I don't know his game plan, but we're going to do it to the best of our abilities.
Now, right off the bat, you open the season with a state championship rematch. So, how important is that game to setting the tone for the rest of the season?
I think our preseason, very similar to last year, is pretty difficult. We are on the road a lot against some really quality teams. And I think it's great if things go well and you get off to the kind of start you hope. But it's just way early and there's a lot of football to play, so it's not the end of the world either way. It's just about working every day, playing hard and getting better.
Going back a little, you also won a state title here in 2004 playing 11-man football. So I'm interested to know, how does building a championship 11-man team compare to building a championship 8-man team?
I think when you start talking about the X's and O's of things, obviously there's some differences. But really football is fundamental. And if you don't block and tackle well, then you're not going to be very good. And if you do those things well, then you're pretty good. So as we transitioned into the 8-man game, and we've played some 9-man games, and of course we played 11 for a long time, those things still ring true. And as far as winning the title, I was also an assistant in 97 with Coach Hill. All three of those teams have something in common. For the most part, we were healthy. We got a little bit fortunate, and we played well in the end.
Kind of continuing the comparison, how well equipped would you say you are to defend the title here in 2023 compared to 2005?
Well, it's hard to compare eras, of course. I think there's a lot of similarities. The number one thing being the returners. You have high expectations. You played a lot of football. You certainly know what it's all about, so to speak. And it's not so awe-inspiring when you get to that, to the semis or to the state championship. It's more just about controlling what you can control. And that's real easy to say and to talk about. Very difficult to do when emotion gets involved. So I think both of those teams, they just have a head start at dealing with that because they've been through it. They have experience. How well equipped? We're not very well equipped, in August. So we certainly have a long ways to go and a lot of work to do. The key, as always, is how well do your younger players develop? I think the kids that are coming back, our returners, they're going to do what they do. They're a year older, they're a year better, they're going to play. The younger kids that are now stepping up and they're maybe playing more or playing for the first time, it's how they develop over the course of the next month or so that will truly determine how good we are.
You've won state championships in 2 variations of football. You've had Coach of the Year honors, and you've gotten to coach your sons. So what, if any, accomplishments or experiences do you have left?
Certainly, coaching my own kids is a bit of a different challenge. I had 3 on the team last year, of course, and I'll have 2 this year. That's probably not as much fun for them as it is for me. I really enjoy that. But as far as what do I have to accomplish, I don't know. It's still, the team is still the great part of it all, We all strive to win those state championships, but I've coached some great teams that never got to that stage. So it's still about, trying to take a bunch of kids and get them to go in the same direction and, play for each other instead of for themselves.
You've won a state title, playing for your dad, playing with your brothers. Is there anything that could happen this year that would top that?
I probably just doing it again, I guess, because I still get to play with my dad and one of my brothers, and I don't, just the same stuff.
Having said that, what will it take for you to be able to look back in November and say, we had a great season?
I would say not necessarily. I mean, it would be great to win another ring, but not necessarily. I would just say playing as hard as we can and to get this team to where we were last year and just playing together, I would say. Not necessarily like certain achievements, just if I know we played together and we played as best as we could in the end, then I would say that would be successful.
So we've sort of talked about that because when you win state, what are your expectations for the next year? Is anything but winning it again a disappointment? I think that you would consider that at this stage. But for me personally, it's, do we play our best at the end? Because I do know and have been in a lot of games where we played well and didn't win. So at the end of the day, you got to play better than the other guy. And there's a lot of other teams that have something to say about that.
I don't know. I'm obviously proud of last season, but I can't dwell on it too much because if we think we're still the best team, then someone's going to take it from us.
Which of your players do you think are poised to have a breakout season?
I think the obvious ones are Chase and Connor. I think there's some younger guys, though, that really played well last year that will be in a much more prominent role this year. Caden Hartman being one of those guys who played good when Grady, my son, got hurt last year in the semis. He played really outstanding in the state championship. Bo Sanders is another one. Saunders, he is really poised to, have a big year. Joel DeYoung. I mean, we have a lot of those guys that probably their names were not as prominent because they were overshadowed by the seniors. There is a group of those guys. Emmett O'Brien, JC. I can go right down the list. Those guys that not a lot of people have heard of that will really be great players for us.